iStock Audio.
Through Coach in a Box's extensive research database, we've been able to decode the changes that most leaders find hardest to make. In this video, we're going to explore personal resourcefulness, that inner source of strength that can be called upon in situations that you may find challenging. People who know how to draw on their personal resources manage to stay calm, open, confident, and clear thinking no matter what life throws at them. They exude a confident authority when the going gets tough or in situations beyond their control. They're positive and can rise to any occasion, whether it be a cocktail party or a major presentation. And we've all been there. We've all had moments when we don't feel at our best, or we've said things that we later regret. We've all had to deal with difficult conversations, tough customers, and colleagues who wind us up, where we feel wrong-footed and not at our best. We've all had to respond to a change we don't like. So here's a typical example from one of our clients that might strike a chord with you. So every month, this client had to produce a really important report for the business. It was a crucial document, and if it wasn't delivered on time, his line manager would be breathing down his neck. Problem was, in order to put together this report, he needed input from lots of different colleagues, and providing this information really wasn't a priority to them. And the closer it came to the deadline, the more his colleagues seemed to actively avoid him, which made him pushy, increasingly impatient, and unusually demanding in order to get the information that he really needed. So putting this report together felt like getting blood out of a stone. And every month he dreaded the experience. Personal resourcefulness is all about building the power within ourselves to choose our attitude in situations just like this, to decide how we truly want to feel and to respond. There's a neuroscientific process at play here that we need to understand in order to change what happens next, and this involves a trigger. Our brains are hardwired to protect us when we feel in any way threatened or stressed. At such times, a signal is sent to a part of our brain called the amygdala that initiates an immediate emotional response to this trigger. It's a fight or flight response usually. So if we come across an angry poisonous snake, this response is exactly what we need. But sometimes we get the same type of reaction in our day-to-day lives. This is a problem. We can't stop the triggers, but we can learn to change our response to them. And as with all the 12 shifts, there's a practice that can unlock our minds to make a change in our behavioural response. We use the word practice deliberately because learning how to react to a trigger is something that just won't happen automatically. It's quite literally counterintuitive. It's forcing our mind to do something that it won't naturally do, so it will take time. So what exactly is this practice we're talking about? We call it ETC. That's short for emotion, truth, and choice. So let's start with E, emotion. Being in touch with our emotional side takes a lot of maturity. Admitting to ourselves how we truly feel can often be at odds with our coping mechanisms. Sometimes we bottle up our emotions in an attempt to be positive, or just fail to notice slight changes in our feelings. For example, when we're a little less engaged in a meeting, or become a little too attached to achieving a goal. If we are honest with ourselves and recognise that we are not at our best and not fully resourceful, this is the first step to responding resourcefully to a given situation. Once we've admitted this to ourselves, the trick is to become conscious of what we call our self-talk. Think of that little person on our shoulder whispering in our ear. Whenever we're triggered, we hear this voice, this pessimistic, judgmental voice that tries to make sense of the situation we're in. So referring to the story about our client producing his monthly report, the voice will convince him that his colleagues are being unhelpful, maybe saying things like, they're working against me, or they don't care about my problems. And of course, the problem is that much of this self-talk is unconscious. We aren't even aware it is going on. But our brain responds to this self-talk as if it is absolutely true, where the amygdala has kicked in. So when the voice in our client's head said that his colleagues were working against him, he became that little bit more defensive in his tone and approach. And of course, his colleagues picked up on this and become less responsive in return. So the whole situation became self-fulfilling, a downward spiral. So let's move on to the T, truth. This stage is really important. Instead of us allowing our brain to jump to conclusions, it poses the question, what is really true here? So instead of falling back on pessimism, a client begins to question what is really true about himself, the situation, and what may or may not be happening. For example, he realizes that his colleagues aren't deliberately trying to work against him, and maybe he can use his own strengths in influencing. So moving on to C, choice. Getting to the truth helps us to control our brains. We move away from the primitive fight or flight amygdala part of the brain to a more sophisticated region where we can make an informed and considered choice. The choice made here is not some knee-jerk reaction. It's a considered course of action that plays to our strengths. ETC sounds simple, but it takes constant daily practice. And if we do practice ETC, the results can be truly phenomenal. For example, leaders who spend more than 50% of their time being unresourceful lose 4 times more employees than those who don't. So by becoming more aware of the times we're triggered and not at our best, we now have a simple process that leads us to recognize the potential that is unrealized in us. By making a conscious decision about our attitude and becoming more resourceful, we liberate ourselves to change the situation and to inspire and engage others. And perhaps equally importantly, we feel so much more fulfilled in our day-to-day life.
iStock Audio.